Hi there, Carl Massy here, coach, strategist and author of a few books, the latest being Decision Making Mastery, which I think is extremely useful and pertinent for this point now. So thank you for joining me for my podcast, Life Masterclass series, where I bring you lots of practical tips, tools and strategies to elevate your level of health, vitality, vibrancy, consciousness, creativity, compassion, success, whatever else you want to throw into that plethora. All about this elevation of self, and one of my favorite words is evolution. So all about the evolutionary, the fullest expression of ourselves in a unique way. Now, I'm coming to you all the way from beautiful Bali, and it is a beautiful day here. It's blue sky, sunshine, a little bit of construction noise in the background, typical for Bali, the background symphony. So thank you for joining me for today, and sort of playing around with this topic of what the beep do we actually believe in. And I'm basing that around the idea of, there was lots of crapola as a result of 2020, and there's still a bit of crapola rolling around into 2021, being told what we could and couldn't do. All of this sort of stuff, being confined, being separated from social occasions, from connecting, from all of that sort of stuff. And, regardless of the agendas of that sort of thing, and it's a completely different topic, one of the great things that came out of this whole experience, and the experience is continuing for sure, is the conversations that happen beyond just the geographical conversations you might be used to having. So that might mean that, I only know what I know and I don't know what I don't know, and my friends only know what they know and don't know what they don't know. So if my, circle of conversing is sort of that big, what I think has happened with this, global show is the conversations have expanded so much broader. So I would normally not have listened to some of the conversations, but because I was spending more time at home, I was like watching, listening and seeing different things. I also made a conscious choice to wind back my business. I decided I was going to work about 50% capacity. I work for myself, so I have the luxury, the joy to be able to do that. I wound things back and decided I was going to spend sort of 50% of my time doing research, reading, trying to understand a little bit more about topics. Now, I've been writing about health, physical health, mental health, emotional health for over 15 years. I've written 5 books now in that sort of field. I've been coaching now for 13, going on 14 years. So I've been involved in this space of trying to understand, how we get the best out of self. So I was very, very aware of, what we needed to do physically to elevate ourselves, to have high vitality. Professionally, I looked at, what doing there, goal setting, lots of different things. But what I didn't pay as much attention to is geopolitical stuff, what's happening globally in certain institutions. I had close understanding, and I've been following anything to do with the health and the institutions within the health spectrum. I've been following that for over 15 years, but I wanted to broaden my scope into lots of different areas and listen to very different people than I'd normally listen to, and listen to long-form conversations where they're talking at length about social topics, talking about political topics, talking about monetary topics, talking about the birth point of the monetary system, where we are now, what's the bankster situation. So one of the things I think has been really great out of this last period of time is all of this new information, understanding these different parts of the puzzle. And it's given me a broader context. What it's also done is caused me to challenge and question everything I thought I knew about stuff. One of the things I've been working and coaching people for over a decade now, and one of the things I work on is helping people separate themselves, move beyond, transcend some of their stories, some of their self-imposed limitations because of the narratives they tell themselves. So their beliefs, their limiting beliefs, so we have these beliefs that keep us, within a certain construct. So I'm a big fan on sort of busting up those beliefs, finding new empowered beliefs. So the same thing as we look at this, this global show, looking at our beliefs around stuff and be willing to let go of or let a bit of space in, a little bit of expansion, a little bit of upgrading, a little bit of evolutionary work with all of our beliefs around pretty much everything. So whether it's your beliefs around the education system, whether it's the beliefs around the professional. I've been doing consolidation to breakthrough, where I take a small group for 6 months and we work through consolidation of self and then a breakthrough experience. And what I'm doing is I'm challenging everyone in that group to just throw out everything that you believe about most things, maintain some stability there, but challenge the idea of work, challenge the idea of 9 to 5 work 5 days a week. Where does that come from? And do you need to conform with that thing? People are starting to see, well, I don't need to be in the office. I can actually work from home and be as productive, or maybe even more productive, and I can have some more, joy from being at home, because then I might be able to spend more time with, my partner. I might be able to spend more time in my space, might have less time for commuting, and all of that sort of stuff. So challenging that whole work thing, what's it need to look like? And as we step back further, we might say, well, this whole work thing was as a result of the Industrial Revolution, where it was very much factory driven. You clocked on, you clocked off. There was, bells and whistles for lunch breaks, or afternoon tea or morning tea, or whatever the breaks were. So even challenging, do I eat breakfast, lunch and dinner at those sort of normal appointed times? Is that a construct of the template? What's to stop me from actually eating when I'm hungry? Choosing I'm hungry at 11:30, or I'm hungry at 2:30, my first meal of the day, and I break my fast at 2:30 in the afternoon, as opposed to, challenging beliefs around, my nutritional beliefs. Is there one size fits all? Challenging beliefs around what is good health, what is optimum health. Challenging your beliefs around, what is the monetary system, what is the banking system, what is debt, what is the creation of debt, what is the agenda behind that? What's my belief around the education system? Is the education system right in its construct? I think about schooling, and we sit in these classrooms with these, chairs all lined up like we're in some sort of, again, factory setting, all facing this direction. Maybe that education system needs to be changed. As we go deeper into history and that sort of stuff, we realise some of the stories we've been told are a little bit off course. I'm fascinated by health, so one of the things that I found most fascinating recently was hearing, it was Dr. Bruce Lipton who was talking about this idea, and saying that Charles Darwin came up with his idea of survival of the fittest and evolution of species and that sort of stuff. Apparently around the same sort of time, there was another biologist, botanist, who was based in Malaysia. I believe it was English, and he was living, as an expat in colonial Malaysia at the time, same time as Darwin. And he'd presented a paper on evolution, the theory of evolution, around about the same time as Darwin. Now, the difference between the two of them, Darwin was upper class and in the know, and this Murray, his last name was from sort of working class. So, when they put their paper together, theory of evolution, that sort of stuff, whoever's name comes out first has the greater weight in that scientific paper. So, Darwin comes first and this Murray comes down the line. And Darwin comes out with his theory of evolution, which talks about survival of the fittest. Murray, on the other hand, had said evolution is elimination of the weakest. So, there's the species, the weakest fall away, and the species collectively in this collaborative experience continue this evolutionary process. versus Darwin's, which is survival of the fittest, like all this, the ones that have, the strongest, the fastest, the meanest, the most successful, the whatever, the ones that succeed. And it was very much supportive of the upper class who, want to justify their position of being the leaders because they have the most money, they have the most influence, they have the most whatever. So really interesting, the swing. If you had the belief, and if the belief had been that evolution is the elimination of the weakest, and it's really about this collaboration, very different from Darwinian, which is survival of the fittest, which leads to competition, which leads to oppression, which can even lead to genocide. As someone's trying to say, maybe that guy, for those that are listening to this and not watching on YouTube, that person called Adolf Hitler, in his genocide thing, sort of saying, this is the right, moving forward, this is the right evolutionary path. These people should evolve forward, and these people shouldn't evolve forward. Like that sort of thing. Again, if it was elimination of the weakest just fall away. So, again, I think there's so many beliefs that we've sort of been bought into. Another one is germ theory. The idea of germ theory versus terrain theory. And if you've never heard of terrain theory, it's worth looking into. This idea that, we only get sick from other people that are sick giving us something. And for me, I've been following a terrain theory model for nearly 2 decades now. And I look at, if I'm in good health, I actually can't catch something from someone. It's very, very unlikely. So if someone's got a cold or flu or whatever and says, oh, don't come near me, I've got this, I don't want to give it to you. I'm like, well, you can't give it to me unless my body is compromised. Then I might have an experience, the same sort of experience, this detoxification experience, this change experience going on. So if you've never heard of, the difference between terrain theory and germ theory, one of the best examples I've heard of it described is there's 2 fish bowls. Both of them got dirty water, both of them have got a fish in them that are sick. Germ theory says let's inoculate, vaccinate, drug, surgery to that fish to improve the health of that fish. Terrain theory says let's tip out that dirty water, put some fresh water in, and let that fish bring itself back into homeostasis based on this innate intelligence of the body. That just says it all for me. That just makes it so clear for me. It just makes sense. Of course we need to fix the terrain. Of course we need to change our environment. Of course we need to change what air we breathe. Of course we need to change what fluid we bring into our body, what water we drink. Of course we need to change the food. Of course we need to reduce the exposure of ourselves to toxicity. Of course we need to put good micronutrients into our body. All of these things, that makes sense. If the environment is conducive, then my body can succeed. This is one of my teachings in leadership. Leadership is creating the environment which is conducive to the success of the team. So, my leadership of self means it's my responsibility to make choices to create the environment, my terrain around me, my terrain internally, so I create the circumstances for the most likelihood of my body thriving, my body being able to overcome disruption, my body being able to overcome a virus that comes around, or a bacteria, or me just being involved in nature and something sort of disrupting me. It's important for me to create that environment. So my thing is, over this period of time moving forward, and for you moving forward, get better at being open to the idea of changing your belief, of hearing a different story, of sort of thinking through something, whether it makes sense, and not just being hoodwinked by this idea of calling everything a conspiracy theory and throwing it out. Just call it a theory. Have a look at it. Is there something that makes sense in that? Is something about this banking thing? Is something about this debt thing? Is something about this education? Is something about this health? Is there something about this one-size-fits-all model? Is there something about this narrative that doesn't make sense? Be willing and open to challenge the beliefs and sort of sit there with it. Maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe there's a different way of looking at things. Maybe there's a different perspective. Maybe I just eat when I'm friggin' hungry as opposed to when the clock chimes, like being more in touch with nature. Maybe I go to bed when I'm tired rather than, at a particular time of the night. Maybe I get up in the morning, not when my alarm says, but when I feel like I've rested my body up enough. Like, bringing this intuitive sense, this intuitive integration with life back into the equation. Now, I could yap on for a lot longer on this, but I'm conscious of time and I don't like to take these podcasts for too long and put anyone to sleep. I want to keep it practical. So my practical advice as I swing back around to it is, during these times of tumultuous change and things going on around you, be open to the idea of new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, new ways of perceiving, new beliefs in relation to stuff. Like, be in this sort of very calm, discerning, relaxed place. And I talk about that in decision-making mastery, about putting yourself in the right state to be able to receive the right information in order to make the best choices and the best decisions. So let's leave it at that. Check out Decision Making Mastery, available on Amazon in whatever format you require it. And in the next few weeks, I'll record an audio version of Decision Making Mastery, so that will be coming out. If you're listening to this on YouTube and you like it, click the thing down below, click the subscribe thing. Do not click the notification. That is mental. Don't want to be doing any of that sort of stuff. If you'd like to pass this on, I'd be very grateful for you to pass this information, these little tidbits of practical information. So thank you very much. If you're interested in doing any more work with me, just check out the link down below, www.carlmassy.com. Reach out if you would like to have any help working through any transition points, any decisions you're trying to make. I'd be more than happy to help out. So on that note, I hope that you're having an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are in this beautiful and gorgeous, incredible planet of ours. All the very best and take care.